Hello YouTube and welcome back to the Man Cave. I'm currently running up a set of videos on workshop stuff because I haven't done any lately, and I thought while I was at it I may as well show you kind of my working space and what I do. So let's walk around the Man Cave. So living in rented accommodation, I can't expand a garage, I can't build extra workshops outside or anything like that. I'd imagine it's probably the same for most of the people in the UK unless they're quite lucky. So I've had to kind of deal with what I've got, and that being the case, I often commandeer the dining table as a little bit of a clean space. It's really important that you have somewhere clean to work. Just for when you're sketching up, when I'm doing sewing, I always use this. When I'm doing stuff like the airsoft builds, I always have a nice clean area to work where there aren't extra screws, bits of sawdust, and just things that will dirty up your projects. It's really important to have somewhere clean, if only for the design work. So even if you can just find yourself like literally a food tray and sit on the sofa and just have somewhere clean to work in your head, then yeah, that's really important. It's just a table. Behind me in the garden there's one of the pub benches. I use that as a kind of secondary workshop table. And I like the basic wood ones because they're nice and cheap. You can probably even pick them up, the actual beer garden ones, you can probably pick them up from pubs that are closing down or eBay. And you can screw into them, you can modify them, you can strengthen them if needs be by just adding a couple of beams. They're nice, cheap and cheerful, and they get the job done. For massive sheet work where I can't fit in a table saw, having a big table like that, a couple clamps and a straight edge and a circular saw really allows me to cut down on the materials, plus the cutting surface they got a B&Q. Really helps a lot. Obviously it's crap for bad weather, but such is life. Yeah, so with that, let's actually move into the workshop. Right, so this is the workshop. We'll go around it all properly, but I just wanted to go through these tools quickly that I've left out on the bench because they're quite important and quite versatile. They don't normally live there, they normally live in this little cubby hole here, but I just wanted to walk you through them and then we can clear it off and I can actually show you the workshop. So let's have a quick look. Right, just to quickly go through these tools. These are basically rotary tools. They're fantastic. We're talking about Dremels and stuff. This is just a little kit I picked up from Maplin's. I actually bought this because I couldn't find my original Dremel and I just needed something for a quick job. I think this was only about 15 quid, but it came with all of the bits, and no matter how useless the actual Dremel tool was, sorry, a rotary tool, it's not a proper Dremel, no matter how crap it was, the actual tool bits are quite useful, and it came in a nice little carrying case. The unit itself has long since burnt out, but I keep the box around just because it's a nice way to keep all the bits. Moving on from that, there's an actual proper Dremel. This is a big heavy duty, I think this is the Model 4000. This is a speed variable Dremel tool with a snake lead, and the snake leads are fantastic. They clip onto the Dremel itself. The Dremel hangs up in mid-air, and then this is your working tool. So you can get quite a fine grip on this, like a pen, and work it in some really tough spots. It's fantastically useful. For when I'm out and about, if I just knock everything over, I've got one of these. This is a, I think an 8000 model. They take little rechargeable battery packs. I've actually ordered a broken one of these on eBay. It was a £5, and this whole thing came broken from a boot sale for a tenner. Opening it up and putting it back together, it was just a loose connection, a corroded connection. I've got now for 15 quid a Dremel with 4 batteries, a couple of chargers, and well, the spare parts from the inside of this broken one. If you can ever get your hands on any Dremel, but in particular one of these little battery ones, they're not very powerful particularly, but they're just quite useful. They're just, well, all battery tools are really quite useful, and I highly suggest something like that. There's plenty of videos online about the Dremel tools and how versatile they can be. They've got so many additions, they're fantastic. The next thing that sits over there, it doesn't actually normally sit over there because I'm too busy using the thing. It's just a little Makita drill. This cost about 120 quid, I think. It's an 18 volt It's a hammer drill, screw and drill with 2 gears and a little self-ratcheting chuck. These things are absolutely fantastic. I probably use this more than anything else I do in the workshop. If you set one of the little screwdriver tips, the little hex ones you get that fit in, well, into those little tips there, you can also get drills, countersinks, and obviously the little screw tips themselves, which means as you're going through any job, you can quite happily bash all your pilot holes in, change a tip out for a countersink them all, straight out, in with your screws, smash them along, and it's so much easier than a plug-in drill. This came with a couple of batteries and a little charger, which, yep, you can see just in the background now, and I always keep a battery on charge and I can just cycle them around. They are absolutely fantastic. I'd be quite close to saying that if you're going to get yourself a professional set of tools, something like this is probably what you should start with. And don't buy something cheap and nasty unless you're only going to be just wazzing off loose screws. Generally speaking, get something good, get something high quality, and you'll use this a hell of a lot. This doesn't actually live, like I said, in the little cubby hole behind me, because I'm using it so much, but this is where the case goes, so if I ever need to go out onto a job, I've always got that available. The only other thing that lives over there is just a heat gun. I use that for the Kydexing and for sometimes when I'm gluing stuff. It's not the most important tool on earth, but it comes in useful. So I'll just show you, well, I'll roll in a quick shot of how those all sit out of the way, and we'll actually get onto the workbench with my tools. There we go. Right, I just want to show you quickly the little cubby hole arrangement, or more to the point, what it's sitting on. These are just a couple of little workshop drawers that from an old toolkit that I had, and this is kind of how I like to keep everything arranged. The whole idea of everything, or in fact, you know, more to the point, what I'm moving into, is something called first order retrievability, which was a phrase coined, as far as I know, by a guy called Adam Savage, who's quite a prolific maker. And the whole idea of it is don't have anything stacked behind something, or don't have anything hidden, because, you know, 9 times out of 10 you'll lose it and forget about it, and that'll be it. So whenever you go for a tool, you want to be able to go exactly for that tool without having to move things around. Just makes things a hell of a lot easier. So to that end, I've got in here just a little screw set. These are actually some cheap and cheerful ones, but they had a nice selection of all the bits. The reason I picked them up, usually I don't pick up anything cheap and nasty, but I wanted a little all-encompassing kit that was cheap as chips I could throw in the drawer. So if anything ever went wrong, I've got at least one kit that will get that final screw in to the job that I'm just about ready to finish. If they're crap and it only lasts for that one screw, that's fine, but I wanted at least one set that's got a whole complement of bits of all different sizes, so I can at least grab the thing I need and then replenish it at a later date. I've got some of the hex bits, bore bits for the drills. These just cut into up to, well, 32mm all the way down to 12, and they're hex sets, so I could swap them out of the quick change drill. They come in quite useful. These are Forstner bits, and my favourite type of drill bits. They cut in some fantastic, they lovely round edges. Holes into wood. They just bore out and, well, destroy anything on the inside of the cutting surface. They make fantastic finished holes. They're just lovely. I use those for all sorts of shaping. They're brilliant. And I've got a hole cutting set. This was just something I found at a boot sale for a couple quid. I throw it in there because, well, I got it. That's about it, really. Generally in these, I just keep odds and sods and things that aren't particularly important. I've got this, again, there's just a little dump hole down there which I need to sort out, and this is just an assortment of little bits that I find useful, some mainly electronics and heat shrink and that sort of thing. Sorry, not electronics, electrics. Yeah, but that actually brings us to the, if I move it up, to the cubby hole itself. These are all of those tools which I just showed you. And as I said, each one of them is retrievable without really having to manoeuvre anything else. Granted, this one usually gets in the way of these, but I can live with that. And just above that, these are some, just show you, some little compartmentalised boxes. And I just keep my most used screws, bits, drill bits especially for this one, just steady the camera up. This has just got a little countersink bit, all the sizes of screws that I normally use in small quantities. There's a set of drills and screwdriver tips in there, and that's it really. It's only a small kit because I only use a small selection of screws quite often. The rest go in a separate storage that I've got, so I can just grab one kit, and that kit's got the pilots, the countersinks, and I can just get everything done in that one box. Sitting underneath that is a set of drill bits. They're actually really cheap bits from Titan. I think the set cost me a £5 second hand, but the reason I got it is because that is an awful lot of drill bits. I think there's something, well, it says in the lid there, generally 10 pieces of everything from, what size have we got? 1mm in 0.5 increments all the way up to 10mm, which is pretty impressive really. I don't expect these to last a great amount of time, but for a £5 I can destroy these and not really having a problem with them. They're not done for precision drilling. I've actually got some better drills for those, but they're just quite useful as kind of beater bits, as it were. I've got some odds and sods of screws, and some electrical connectors. Nothing important, it's just a little dump box. And then I've got some hooks, some clips, and that sort of thing. And brackets. These are just useful for little bits that I do around the workshop. I'm often adding in little hooks or throwing in some screws so I can make a kind of shadow board. They're just generally useful. It's just stuff I find that I often gravitate to around the shop. The unit itself, I just knocked up from a bit of old, can't remember what it was actually, probably an old kitchen counter or something. But yeah, let's take a proper look around the rest of the shop. Right, sorry, the light isn't particularly good in here, but we can still have a quick look at things. Basically, we just got the back of the toolbox there. I use that so there's loads of little magnets that I've got, these little round things, and they're fantastically strong, and they're perfect for sticking to the back of this. Just allows me to hold some paperwork and bits like that. Very importantly, I've got a little bit of a music set up so I can well, listen to music and put the radio on. It's bloody nice to have it in the workshop. Just underneath it, I've got some toilet roll and some tissue roll, just generally useful for wiping bits up and spillages and all that sort of thing. Next to it, there's a little Dremel drill press. That comes in quite useful for polishing more than drilling. These are fantastic. You can actually turn that whole thing on its side and have the little buffing wheel there. Really good for small radiuses, especially on the knives. There's a set of, let me just tighten that up. There's a set of metric and imperial Allen wrenches. Well, not wrenches, sorry, T-bars. And again, those come in really useful. I particularly like the metric ones, as well as the obviously the tip at the bottom. They've got the top bit. It's pretty, well, it's not rare, but these you can get these where it's just the actual bar itself. In fact, the Imperials are exactly that, and I'm not particularly a fan of these. That said, they're Imperials, and in the UK we don't use Imperial that much, so I've got the good set of metrics, and those are just screwed down to the workbench. The workbench itself is just a thing I made up out of an old table of all an old door out of all things. It's always really important again to have a nice sturdy table. You want to be able to smash around on this and have somewhere nice and you don't somewhere dirty to work where you don't mind it getting smashed up, beaten. And this is actually on the bottom here. This is the actual door component, and on top of that I put a plywood sheet. The reason being is if this ever gets beaten up or haggard too much, I can unscrew it, flip it over, screw it back in, or I can go to B&Q, get them to cut one exactly to size, drop it on, screw it in, and I've got a brand new worktop for pennies. It's really important on all tables. I'll see if I can show you, where is it, on the camera there. Put a little lip on the back of your workbench if ever you do it. The reason being, if you ever have a small component that's really important to you, you can guarantee it will roll off straight off the back of your table if you let it. So just a little lip stops that sort of thing, and it's an absolute lifesaver. It works pens and stuff like that. They were always rolling off my workbench before. So over in the corner there's a little arbor press. This little thing here. That's just for, I've modified it so it's good for kydexing for the rivets and stuff that go around the actual edge of the sheath or holster. Here we have, let me just move the camera up, a little drill press. This was about 15 quid at a car boot, and actually it's really quite good. This is probably, along with the drill itself, probably one of the first tools I'd suggest anyone gets. You can pick these up, especially at boot sales, for between 20 to 30 quid. Obviously the better quality you can get, the better, but something cheap and cheerful like this will do a much better job than any hand drill, and they're brilliant. You can use them for quite a lot of things. You can put little sanding discs on there and actually work the sander as a static thing. You can get little quick release clamps for holding your work. These are also speed adjustable by changing the bands. A little bit of a ball ache, but you can still do it. It's got the set of ratios at the front, and generally these are just brilliant bits of kit to have. Yeah, like I said, the more you can fit on there, the better. Sorry, the more quality you can get, the better. And you can get these that are absolutely huge 6-foot things if you needed to. This has got enough power to easily punch through 10 odd mil thick 01 tool steel, unheat treated, so brilliant for my uses. Just find it as a shadow board, but I'll move this out of the way and show you that just now. Right, just in here is like a little miniature shadow board. A shadow board is just a little bit of wall where you've drawn in a silhouette of the tool that sits on there. Generally in any workshop I've been to, these are huge and they've got all sorts of tools on. This, I just want to utilise some space on the side of this storage cabinet, so I've gone for the bits that I most often need. Those being a tool to change the discs on a angle grinder, a straight edge or a safety ruler. These are quite useful again. Safety glasses, a couple of squares, some chucks for the drill itself, heat laser, laser thermometer. Those are really useful for when I'm doing a kydex work, so I can check the surface temperature of the kydex. And then this is just a little Allen key, which goes for the vibro saw. This will generally get added onto, and it's not meant to hold all of my tools, just the things that I absolutely need day to day when I'm doing anything. I always need a straight edge, I always need safety glasses, and I very usually need to change drill tips and change blades on the vibro saw. So I've got all the tools to be able to do that without having to rummage around through boxes. So let's get on to some of the actual tools themselves. Right, normally my pillar drill lives here, but I've moved that out of the way just so I can show you quickly. Some of the really useful tools I have in the shop. I've just got an old suitcase here. I'm not going to bother getting it out because it's a bit pointless. This just has a normal corded drill, and that's just fantastic in case any of the batteries go dead or something breaks. I've always got a backup, because drilling is one of the things you're mostly doing. Drilling, cutting and sanding. Down to cutting. Just get the cable for this out of the way. Stored on the bottom of this unit here, got a little bandsaw. This I think was 15 quid off of Gumtree, and is, if I'm honest, a pile of crap. But it does the job I need to, which is quick, dirty cuts. You can set these up, and if you take your time, then they can have really nice kind of nice straight cuts to them. But generally speaking, something as cheap as this doesn't really work that well. All it is you have a blade in here, you have a tracking wheel, third wheel and a drive wheel, and that just spins the blade around. You have this horrible kind of aluminium table which doesn't sit square at all, and generally what I'll use this for is quick cuts where I can't be bothered to get the hand saws out, and then I'll use a sander to straighten up the edges. it's just a nice way of doing it. I'd love a proper bandsaw, but as you can see, the space I've got in here is a little bit limited. That said, as bad as this is, for 15 quid, I'd suggest, or however much you can get one for, I suggest having one, even if it's cheap and nasty, because they do a good job. Yeah, so that's that. And that generally lives just here. Sitting above it, this is a vibro saw, and this arm here just reciprocates. Sorry, this arm in here reciprocates up and down, and there's a tiny little saw blade on this, and it basically, as the name would suggest, vibrates. And the blade on these is absolutely tiny. I'm not sure if I've got them to show you, but you can find them anyway. They're literally a couple of millimeters thick. So this allows you to go some really complex curves. In fact, what I will do now is I'll grab a bit of scrap wood and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Right, I just found this. It's a bit of scrap wood with some angles cut into it. I can't remember what it's from, but I'll just grab a pen. And again, you should always have a load of pens knocking around. I'm just going to draw a nice squirrely pattern onto the edge of that. And obviously trying to cut that or do it by hand, quite irritating. So we'll just get onto the saw quickly. There we go, a little bit rough and ready, but you can see you've got all those lovely curves in only a couple of seconds. And something like this can easily be straightened up on the belt grinder. And I'll show you that now. Right, this is my belt grinder, and it's by far the most favourite bit of kit I have in the workshop. This is normally used for making knives, but I've got a selection of belts that only get used on wood, and this is why. What I'll do is I'll quickly clean this up, and then I'll show you exactly why I love it so much for bits of wood. As you can see, you can get the radiuses really nicely done. You can do a lot of the kind of corner work where you're spinning it around on the outside. These radiuses here come from just using the tip of the contact wheel itself. Yeah, and this is on this is a 36 grit belt. There's a setup behind me, and I've got a selection of these that go all the way up to 500. When you're talking about wood, 500 grit is about as fine as you can go. You can polish it and go a bit further than that, but generally speaking, if you're going up to 500 grit, you have got a really, really polished bit of wood. This is fantastic for metal as well. One of the things, as I said, I used it for, I'll just tilt the camera up a little bit. Because I like to use my space, I put a little hinge section on here, and this is so I can have the knife board sitting right above me. Okay, let's tilt that up. This is some of the current blades I'm working on, all various kind of things, all in various states of finish. There's some of the fully hardened blades, and then some of the, here we go, let me just grab this one off. Something like that, which is in a very rough state at the moment. I've got to get some proper grinding onto that. But yeah, so this is kind of the station at which I make knives. I like to have all the blades up here, so as I'm working on the grinder itself, I can swap things out and move around. Dust protection is really important. My glasses, I keep a set always knocking around, and there's always a set on the wall over there as well. And I like this setup because I can quite easily have the grinder running. As you can see, I'm working on stuff here, yet still have a top in which to put it, so I can put various things. So I can put squares and handle materials and whatnot up here, and I'll actually often take some form of handle material and balance it with the knife itself. So I'll be able to take this and kind of see how it's roughly going to look. Okay, well I need more or less, and I can go back to shaping this. I do this while I'm on the actual before heat treatment, so I can actually, if needs be, reshape the steel to match the wood, or the wood to match the steel, but quite dynamically, so I can always quite happily kind of balance the two, and it's nice to have bits of kit knocking around. There's also like handle pins, and this was another handle that I was playing with. How's that going? So yeah, it's just a nice way of kind of working, and it gives you're able to kind of put this together as you're building it and see how it would feel, how it would fit in the hand. Yeah, and that's about it really. Sorry. Yeah, so this is my little knife building station. I generally have drawers that are set up below. Again, we'll drop that down. And these are just there to house some of the bits that I use now and again. Load of tech locks, some grinding discs. This is full of sawdust, but there's a couple of spare glues in there, handle materials. I like using wood for my knife blanks. As you can see, cutting up something like that is really simple, again on the scroll saw, and it doesn't have to be precise. It's just nice to be able to kind of get to a point where you can feel what you've got. In fact, here we go, something like this. This was in fact the first knife I ever designed myself. This is this blade here. And as I was showing you before, it's just really nice to have that kind of, to be able to get a feel for the blade you're working on before you actually go into the expensive steels and going into heat treatment. So yeah, this is why I like the jigsaw as well. You can quite happily cut out these nice clear curves, and if there is anything like these curves that you really want to make sure you can get nicely, then you can use the, I'll show you on the bottom wheel here, you can use the actual machine that you've got to work through this and make sure you can get exactly the curves you need in the steel. Because I could cut this out of wood quite happily in any shape I wanted, but then when it got to the steel, if I've got to cut out a massive lump of steel from there and the grinder won't do it, then that's going to take me a long time. So it's a nice little way to prototype things nice and quickly. That's that really. I'll quickly show you some of the other bits I've knocked up in my storage, and that'll be the end of the video. Right, as this is my knife making corner, I've also rigged up this unit on the wall here. That's just to hold my belts. It's just a little friction fit into the wall, again made out of scrap. I think this was an old bed originally that I've taken some lumber out of. And yeah, as you can see there, it's just some little hooks that I've knocked up, just with a little bit of dowel. And there's a selection of bands easily on hand. Those are all the woodworking ones, and then all of the steel ones are put out in grit sizes. In the corner there, right in front of you, the obligatory broom for cleaning up all of the crap that gets on the floor, and it's a lot when you're grinding. I've got a little metal cabinet for some storage. Up here I've got another cabinet. This just houses lots more of the little screw boxes that I had. All of those, and that's just got extra bits and dabs that I use, and has some more of the bulk screws, and then I can decant from here into the little box where I need them. These little cabinets, they just hold bits and projects more than anything else. I should give you a quick walk around those and then we'll be done. Right, this is just a little bit of storage really for some of the bits that I do. There's a lot of these hobbycraft boxes, and I love hobbycraft boxes. They're so useful for everything. This is for some of the Kydex stuff I do. And this just holds, these little boxes flip in and out. And these just hold things like rivets and eyelets and stuff like that. And some of the things when I do like buckles and, for when I do like webbing straps, some of the little D-rings and stuff for those, and I think those for some paracord bracelets. Just bits that I find useful for that sort of thing. The one behind it just contains threads and bobbins for the sewing machine which sits there. And then these are just little, I like boxes, so these just have a selection of little boxes I can use for keeping odds and sods, or maybe even sending some stuff out. And then below there's just a nice selection of latex gloves, and in the drawer below that there's just a massive collection of bushcraft stuff which I haven't got around to organising yet. Generally on eBay I'll find something that's quite nice and quite useful, and I'll pick it up and not think about how I'm going to use it, so it lives in there until I can work out what's going on, and that then overflows to a box of bits down there which I need to shift, if I'm honest. Right next to this, just some storage for some sheet material. As I said, over there there's just some more odds and sods of bits of spare wood. And yeah, that's oh, I may as well show you that as well. That's a little cabinet I was talking about, and it just holds bits of everything, and this is where all the bulk bits go. So I take these and decant them into the little drawers that I showed you earlier. And actually, sitting next to this is quite nice. This is just like a little mechanical arm which creaks like anything, and this just holds a pad of paper. And this is quite useful. Oh, that's horrible noise. That's just quite useful for when you're working on projects. You can quite happily draw your design up in there, whatever it may be. And then yeah, that will sit on your desk and you can just position it nicely. Just quite nice, really. There's nothing else really that's worth showing you. So that's been my workshop. Well, that was the workshop tour of the man cave. I know it's a little bit late coming to you guys, but I just haven't had time to walk around really. The reason I'm doing it now is because I've got a lot of woodworking projects coming up. I've just rejigged the workshop, which is why it's also a bit of a mess. And I just wanted to show you, you know, what was all around the shop before I actually started using it. I'll run some little videos on the drills and the saws and all this sort of thing when I actually get around to it and when I'm actually doing work on it. But in the meantime, if you have any questions or if you need a hand with any little projects or just want, you know, some advice on something, then if I can help I will. Shoot me a comment or a little message and I'll see if I can knock up a video for you. In the meantime, I'm going to be running lots of different knife making videos and tutorials and showing you sort of the processes I go through. Some of the prototyping stuff is quite nice and fun, so that'll be on the little wooden blades. That's always nice. You can go from a bit of a scrap of wood to knife in a couple of minutes, and that's always quite satisfying. So I'll be doing some stuff like that. I'll be rejigging the workshop a little bit. I'll be showing you some odd videos on the tools, and I'll be making up some bits and bobs. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching the Man Cave.